Good morning, storytellers. Sorry I am a little late getting on live. I've had the worst time connecting this morning to Wi-Fi. You might notice my digs are a little different. I am at my folks' house for the week while my mom visits my brother in Pennsylvania. I am hanging out with my dad. One thing I do want to do really quick, I want to close this. Hang on one second. That will help me with my attention span here. So what I wanted to do this week is kind of change it up. Most of you know me. My name is Carrie Severson. I am your host here in the Soulful Storyteller, but I am an essay writer and I'm a storyteller trainer. So I help people take big stories and break them down into bite-sized pieces and get them published in an essay format. What I don't talk about a lot is my book writing experience, and I really want to change that. So this week I'm providing some insight into how you can take your nonfiction story idea that is probably clouding your head and get it onto paper. So we're going to be going through how to outline, how to write a book proposal, how to write and work on your platform at the same time this week. So what I would love to know is what story you have that's floating around in your mind, and who you are and why it's important for you to write. So please come on in, introduce yourself in the comments, and tell me a little bit about your story idea. All right, so I'm a recovered journalist. I have 20 years in the nonfiction world. I play really well in the deep end of the written word and the like authenticity and the vulnerability. That's sort of where I shine. And the reason this particular concept is so important for me is most writers I work with, most entrepreneurs I work with have so much overwhelm going on in terms of they have these great big story ideas that they want to write about. They want to write about their life, and they don't know how. And so they have all these ideas that just sort of float around in their head all day long, and they're not getting it onto paper. So when they come to me, I love working with overwhelmed writers actually, because they tell me about their overall life, and I pull a nugget out of this big conversation that we have, and I break it down into a hey Sarah, I love that idea. Hang on one second. I break down they come to me with overwhelm and they tell me everything about their life. I grab a nugget from our conversation and I push everything else into the waiting wing. And I'm like, we're gonna write an 800 word essay around this concept right here. And we bring it to life and we put it out in the world and we get it published. And suddenly there's this like breath of fresh air, and there's this stream of creativity that comes in, and it's renewed. And we go back over into the waiting wing and we pull out another nugget and we make this into an 800 word essay and we put that out into the world and get that published. So I love working with overwhelmed writers because so oftentimes they come to me with this huge idea and they don't see how practical breaking it down into an essay format is first. But truthfully, essay writing and book writing go hand in hand. They dovetail really well together. And I really want to open your eyes to that. Not only are you responsible as a writer and as an author for bringing a saleable idea, a well-written idea, and a huge market to sell your idea to when you approach an editor, an agent, or even if you go, self-published, you still want to be able to sell your book somewhere. So many writers actually can springboard a book from an essay. So let me talk a little bit more about that. So I wrote a book called Flirting with Burnout, Sarah. I'm a recovered burnout. I launched a nonprofit when I was 32. It caught on fire, blew up literally within a matter of months. Been featured in Glamour magazine and USA Network, and showcased hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times in local, regional, and national magazines. And I created a product called the Supergirl program, and we actually broke down our curriculum into workbook format. So our publisher is called Morgan James, and we have 3 of these books on the market. And I could not keep up with the demand. We actually sell these nationwide, bookstores around the country, and we wrote Train the Trainer material, and we sold the Train the Trainer material to community centers and schools around the country. And I could not keep up with the demand, so I burned out. In 2014, I started writing about my burnout experience, and my first essay, personal essay for Huffington Post, was called I'm a Recovered Burnout. And the feedback from that essay was something I never experienced in all of my journalism career. For weeks, people around the world would email me and ask me questions. They wanted to talk to me about their experience, and they wanted to pay me just to talk to them. And that was the first time that had really happened. I had no idea. I was like, I guess you could pay me if you want to donate to Severson Sisters. I'll talk to you about burnout. But my book, Flirting with Burnout, came to me because I started essay writing about burnout first. So often these essays that we are able to pull out of our overall life experience is the trigger for our book. And I don't think many people sort of utilize the brilliance of essay writing enough when it comes to their book. Hey honey, hi Erin, lovely to see you. So I really want you to think about how you can sort of connect these 2 concepts together, your overall book idea along with how to break it down into smaller bite-sized pieces to keep your creativity moving forward, because the books are obviously marathons and essay writing is more of a sprint, and they work really well together. All right, so Sarah, let me know how that feels. I want to help people in a similar situation so they can also beat burnout. Yeah, me too. All right, so when it comes to getting your idea out of your head and onto paper, there are several ideas that I have that I've personally used. Freeform writing is my all-time favorite go-to exercise to sort of clear your the cloud, the fog. When we have so many ideas and we don't know what to do with them, it's best if you freeform write around a specific topic. So some of the best pieces of advice I've gotten from editors at St. Martin's Press, at Penguin, agents at literary agencies, is, nonfiction writing is a saturated market. So many people want to write about their overall life experience, and it's not really driving well anymore. What works is taking a theme from your overall life and carrying that theme throughout the entire story arc of your book. Nonfiction books have to have a story arc just like fiction books do, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. They just want to get everything they've ever experienced down onto paper to showcase everything they've overcome. But not everything you've overcome plays into one another. You've got to break that down into one theme, okay? So my book, Burnout, it's called Flirting with Burnout. I decided to break it down into 3 different sections. The first section was like how I burned out. The second section was how I overcame burnout. And my third section was exercises to help millennials recover from burnout. So I broke it down even more specific. I decided to write my experience to the audience I knew I was going to sell it to. So my very first piece of advice on how to get your story idea from here onto paper is to come up with one theme. And hopefully some of the ideas that are playing in your head fall to the side for the time being, because not everything you have up here should go into the same book. okay? So I want you to come up with one theme. I'm going to stick with my theme, burnout, because in a second here I'm going to show you how to break it down. Sarah, writing a book is a little overwhelming, but never thought about chunking it into essay size. Yeah, definitely. And burnout is an evergreen topic. Evergreen is something that in the publishing world, in the journalism world, editors look to because they can always publish it. It's a little bit of a pain from a writing perspective to sell an evergreen essay to a publication because there's it's not necessarily it could not be, sometimes it's not a timely topic, and so you might risk them sitting on it for a while, which is super frustrating. But burnout is one of those topics that publications really always want to write about, or always want to publish. So okay, so we have our theme for our book, right? There's 2 questions I think you should answer in a freeform writing session. Number 1 is, why is this important for you to write? And number 2 is, what is your end goal for writing it? What do you want the world to know from this book? So both of those are incredibly important questions. The first one, why is this important for you to write? Well, from a freeform writing perspective, chances are it'll be a little healing and a lot of stuff is going to come up, right? You'll be able to really recognize how clear you are from responding to that one question, how ready you are emotionally and energetically to actually have this book out. Because remember, from an energetic perspective, every story carries an energy. And whatever you write, particularly in a book, because you're committing to 10 chapters, you're going to put that out there and that will never go away. So make sure that you are in the right head space, the right heart space, the right soul space to write this, especially if it's a heavy topic, okay? And as you're freeform writing this first question, why is it important for you to write this book? You'll start to see the nuggets from your overall life experience that really, really matter. So chances are not everything you've ever experienced around this theme is going to make it into the book. It could. I mean, you're looking at 40,000 words, which could easily be broken down into 10 chapters. Maybe you do have 10 different obstacles around this one theme that you could put into this book, and each obstacle is a chapter. So freeform write until you can't write anymore. Why is this theme important? Why is this book important for you to write? And as you start to get to the end of that freeform writing session, hopefully you feel purged about your topic, about your theme. You feel a little bit ready to get an outline together, which is your next step. Before we get our outline together, though, I want you to answer the next question, which is, what is the end goal of this book? What do you want the world to know about your book? So you move from why is it important for you to write to the end user. And really, when it comes down to it, the end user is more important than you. You're the vessel, you're the vehicle, you're the funnel for this message to reach your end user. For me, when I started doing research on burnout, okay, so first of all, in the response to my essay for Burnout in 2014 was phenomenal. Hi, Melanie. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people reached out to me over the course of weeks. And honestly, still today, that essay gets brought up to the top, and I will still get people that will reach out to me. It happened just last month, actually. And we're talking like almost a 3-year-old essay now. When I started to lean back and allow all of that feedback to sort of sit there, I realized this particular topic was an important one, not just for me, but for the world. I had people in Ireland, I had people in New Zealand, I had people in Asia, Canada, Mexico reaching out to me, so I knew it was a worldly topic. So I actually went to work researching it. Nonfiction work is an incredibly different sort of process than fiction work, and there's so much that has to depend on the marketplace and the research behind this topic. So I started researching results of burnout. I started researching generations broken down, who's burnt out, who's not burnt out, where are they in the world. So a lot of this question on why is it important and the end goal, what is it I want the world to know about this book, I realized that I want to give them tools to recover. So that was very clear for me as I'm writing it. So I decided to break down my book into 3 sections. Again, first section is how I burnt out. Second section was how I recovered from burnout. And my third section was tools for you to recover from burnout as well. So out of my 9 chapters and 40,000 words, 3 of those chapters are exercises and journal entries and blogs and things like that. The 6 chapters I had to work with on telling my story meant my arc was incredibly quick. But at the same time, they're longer chapters, lots of words within those 6 chapters itself. And I had to get pretty quick to the overall, the theme of each chapter and move it forward pretty quickly. So, before you get into the outline of your book, though, this question, why is it important for the world and to hear your book? What is it you want the world to know about your book? Freeform Write, and you'll start to see your themes. You'll start to see your end goals develop within that Freeform writing session. And you'll start to see the direction of your book within those 2 simple exercises. I say simple, but everyone knows they're not simple. I mean, those 2 exercises alone could easily take you weeks, and maybe should take you weeks, to get you really, really clear on why you want to tell it and what you want the end user to walk away with. So tell me how that feels. What book Melanie, are you writing a book? I think you want to write a book about your breast cancer experience. Erin, what are you writing? Do you want to write a book? Are you still here? Okay, so moving a book idea out of our head and onto paper is a slow process. Okay, and I think so many writers and leaders don't even start this process because it's a daunting process. But what you have to remember is a book is a marathon, and a marathon runner doesn't just wake up one day and be all like, I'm going to go run 26 miles. They train for months. They typically have a coach. They have a support system. They have all these different steps before they actually get to the marathon itself. All right. So when you decide in your heart and your head and your soul that it's time for you to write this book, you have to prepare yourself for a long haul. You have to prepare yourself for finding the right coach or trainer or support team or something before you even start the process. So these 2 questions will help you start to see it clearly, will help you get it out of your head and onto paper, and that is the first step for every nonfiction book. We first think it, and then we have to break down our thoughts and get them onto paper, and these 2 freeform writing sessions will really help you do that. Melanie, I want it to be more than just the story. I want it to be about dealing with fear. You want it to be bigger than your story. You want it to be about dealing with the fear. Okay, so fear could be your theme, and all of the trigger could be your breast cancer experience. That would be interesting. So my theme was burnout, but I really talked a lot about fight or flight. I talked a lot about acceptance. I talked a lot about surrender. So every theme, I think every chapter I had within my book really brought up a different flavor of emotion for me. So your topic or your theme could be dealing with fear, and your theme or your arc could be your breast cancer experience. That'd be cool. I already know the right coach. Hey, Rebecca. Okay, so my journey through burnout included a lot of fears that the orphans helped me overcome. Intrigued by free writing on those questions. Your journey through burnout included a lot of fears that the orphans helped me overcome. That would be really neat. Sarah, I'm kind of getting an intuitive hit here where if I were you, I would break down your fears that the orphans helped you overcome into chapters. Here's the thing. Here's what I love so much about how nonfiction writing and essay writing comes into play. In my opinion, I hear, as I'm working with people, I'll hear titles to chapters, but they can also be titles to essays. So an essay could be the start of a chapter for you. It could be you playing with language to know what fits into a chapter and what doesn't. But I would play around with that concept on like making, maybe if you had 6 fears that these orphans helped you overcome, maybe each chapter could be addressing a different fear. Maybe you could, if you've got permission from the orphanage, maybe you could play around with featuring a different orphan that helped you address the fear in each chapter. I think yours is going to be super powerful, and I think once you start to get clear on the actual fears and your freeform writing, this is going to come pretty quick for you. I see it almost like a vacuum. There's something clouding you, you just have to sort of click it into place, and then once you get that into place, it's pretty quick. Shoot, something was just there and now I lost it. Think. I hate that when that happens. It'll come back to me. All right, so what I wanted to do is I pulled up I have my computer behind me here. I pulled up my, all right, so I pulled up my outline for my Flirting with Burnout book. Before I get that, I want to answer this for Erin. Lots of thoughts and questions. What started out as an article, which still might be, is slowly turning into a book, but I've been thinking of a fictional book based on some of my, I can't fully read it on my phone, 1 second, based on my life experiences. Okay. Erin, I'm so glad you said it because that just triggered what I wanted, what I had remembered. And it plays really well into your question. I love it. All right, so I was sitting at a networking event in New York City in like 2015, and I really wanted to write about my childhood experience of being the mean girl stuff that I experienced. And I was sitting with this literary agent, or I'm sorry, a book editor at St. Martin's Press that I'm friends with, and I was sort of pitching her this idea I had, and I was like, what do you think of writing this mean girl thing? And she actually had the brilliant idea of turning my childhood mean girl experiences into a fictional teen series, which could be really cool. There's a lot on the market for elementary girls on how to deal with other girls, but there's not a lot in the like 16 to 18 kind of range, or 13 to 18 range, I guess. When you look at the children's section, there's a lot of beginner work, there's a lot of elementary work, but there's really nothing to sit with that sort of teenage. They're put into the adult category. And so she suggested that I turn it into a fictional series and really sort of flesh out the characters and get a little bit more meaty. And so Erin, that could be something that you could do. You might want to consider making it a little younger and taking it down from corporate to college. So there's really no reference at all to your actual experience. When you take a real life experience and you make it fictional, there's so much that has to change. But it's a great idea. I love, what you're thinking of doing. That would be a lot of fun. Interesting. Cool stuff. What else? Anyone else got ideas? Okay, so now we have our theme. We have these 2 freeform writing questions. that we're answering, and we're going to sort of break down our outline. The outline could legitimately take you months, and probably, again, should take you months. And this, again, is just for nonfiction work. Fiction outlines should take you months too, but the nonfiction work. So, again, I broke my Flirting with Burnout book into 3 sections: how I burned out, how I recovered from burnout, and then the end piece. And let me make sure that that's actually accurate, because it could be. Actually, I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right. I think I did the first 2 sections. The first section was why I decided to create this nonprofit. The second section is actually how I burned out. And then the third section is the manuscript. So here we go. Here is this is the outline. So it's 5 pages. Every chapter, let me see if I can make this bigger. So every chapter is outlined. I broke it down into the title of the chapter, what I wanted to get across in the actual chapter, and then the bullet points are going to be what I address in the chapter. And I did this for my book is 10 chapters, and I did this for all 10 chapters. So let's just focus on this one. So this starts with obviously I started a nonprofit for girls because I was bullied as a kid. And so I start with that entry point into my life. I had a pretty rough childhood. I'll put pictures of childhood in there, a childhood journal in there, an exercise in there. But really it's a good look into how I started this nonprofit for girls when I was essentially in middle school. So the first couple of sections, the first few chapters sort of outline that. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are how I got to the point where I was ready to launch the nonprofit. And then chapter 4, 5, and 6 is the how I burnt out. So chapter 4 is my leap of faith, launching the nonprofit, the summer pilot that we did, another exercise in here. And then chapter 5 is the roller coaster ride. And this is really the meat of the book. So this is how my outline goes through all 10 chapters. And I don't want to go through all of this because that would be forever. But this took me months. And every time I would come up with a different theme, or this isn't my final, this wasn't my first draft. This probably won't be my last draft, but this is what it looks like right now. And every time something new would pop into my head, I would have to redo this. And so your outline isn't a final sort of end all be all. It's really a working document for you to kind of get clear and move through the process of writing the book. So let me know how that feels. I think the 2 freeform questions that you're answering, why is this important and what do you want the world to know about your book, will help you get clear. Writing an outline broken down by chapters, and then what you want each chapter to address will definitely help you get it from here onto paper. The outline is the most important part of your prep work. I think it's one of the last steps of your prep work. And then the book itself you can start the book once you have a solid outline. And again, remember, your outline isn't an end all be all. It's simply a working document to help you move through it. So Lily told me this weekend she wants to write a children's book with me to help little kids not be afraid of spirits and how to talk to them. Blew me away, but I thought it was a great idea. Yeah. However, she would have to, I'm trying to read your comment on my computer here. However, she would have to somehow be the author because I don't see spirits like she does. Children's books, there's a great market for it. There's a lot of agencies that are looking for children's authors. So I think it would be you would be a ghostwriter with her, Erin, or a co-writer. I think there might be a great opportunity for you to do daughter-mother, and that would be a lot of fun. I think you should explore that. Yeah, big market for Angels and Spirits Guide. Yeah, Hay House, there's a ton of them. So that is what I have for you today. And the reason I'm so interested in, again, I work with so many authors who are overwhelmed with these ideas that they don't know how to break it down. So this week we're going to be focusing on the books. My essay experience obviously doesn't go away. It's just I wanted to share with you my book writing experience. Or you could co-author with her. I could co-author with her. Yeah, I could do that. All right, so actually, Erin, thank you for mentioning that because that gives me a really good idea. So I partnered with an author named Dana Burnworth. Dana has as much experience in the fiction world as I have in the nonfiction world. And you'll remember last month I talked a lot about going to Dallas, and I co-wrote 2 television show concepts with Dana. What we decided to do is launch an LLP together called Ruby Screen. And we're bringing stories to fruition through a variety of formats. So we kickstarted our partnership by opening up an offer for authors to come forward and have us either help them write their outline, help them write their book proposal, get feedback on what to write. And we're doing 2 hours with the 2 of us through live Zoom calls for $4.99. And if this is something you're interested in doing this week, let me know, Carrie@carrieseverson.com, or you can comment here or send me a Facebook message. We're taking appointments through this week and some of April to help as many authors as we can get clear on a book idea. So it doesn't have to be nonfiction, that's just my experience, but Dana has the fiction experience as well. In a couple days, she'll come in here and do a live on talking about outlining a fiction book. Yeah, Erin, I think we should talk about that. That might be really cool. All right, you guys, so let me know how this feels, how this worked for you. Tomorrow, I think I'm going to dive in a little bit more into the book writing experience. I know later this week I'm going to go through your proposal and talk about marketing yourself as an author. So let me know what else you've got for me if you want me to do a live on a certain topic, and I will talk to you guys later. Happy storytelling.